One last thing I wanted to show you that is related to the RDF tab tool is the QuadLad project that it was my experiment 2 or 3 years ago where it tried to achieve the same objective of exploring data that is stored in RDF, but it tries to be much more general. So I had there was the concept of storage of the quads in the browser, even using local storage technology and some attempts at like replication between nodes. That was one of the big complications. The other was that I was trying to go like full general in the sense that because what we are doing in RDF tab now is we just start with a particular node and we load all the quads related to the node like under it, and then we are at most we are displaying like a tree structure basically. And the data the data model really matches that view, while in the QuadLad I was trying to build a general purpose viewer where any node could be presented in a number of with a number of different like presenter user interfaces, and those user interfaces would keep track of what actual triples they would be like used in the presentation, and what possible triples there would be like not accounted for, and then it would also display the triples not accounted for in a table. And when you have this idea of multiple different presentations, it also tries to keep track of the actual chosen presentations inside the it would try to store that choice inside the RDF data, maybe in another graph, I don't know. And there would also be this concept of reactive queries over the data. So reactive in the sense that this was built in the Svelte framework, so it just made sense to try and plug the queries into the reactivity system. So say if the underlying RDF, the local storage RDF store changed in any way, then the automatic reactivity system would make the change bubble through the queries all the way to the user interface. So you can see an example of a query here, I guess. Like that would be the the pattern that we are matching with, and there's some metadata like what determinacy, what like would there do we expect 1 or 0 or more results. Yeah, And D-Logic was one concrete use case for the framework. D-Logic was meant to display, or I was trying to display uh, traces of Prolog program executions. And here in the template we would dispatch on the different types of objects stored in the RDF that would represent the trace. So like the start of the trace or the root object of the trace would be this. And then each time outer is like the most important object, I mean template of the component of the QuadLad framework, because that would be like the generic. If you're displaying something and it's referencing something else, then you use the outer component to let the framework like display it. So this all kind of worked, but it was quite complex, especially with regards to the storage, and I didn't have a clear plan with regards to what data goes where, about what is the displayed data and what is like metadata about the presentation and so on. And then the reactive queries were also, there's probably like a whole little querying engine here somewhere. And that was obviously kind of hard to work with in the different components. Not hard to work with, but yeah, I don't know, it was too much all in all. So now RDF tab is like another take on the same problem, but just cutting corners everywhere and doing like much simpler things, just displaying a hierarchical structure basically. In RDF tab I have not even made a serious attempt to do like different possible presentations for. Actually, we should be doing some of that, like for RDF value or for Excel cells or something like that. But even that is gonna be simpler in RDF tab. Now through local storage, I believe all these open tabs share the same database. 2088 quads. And I also considered making the database editable right there. So that was another complication. Anyway, this was just to explain kind of where RDF tab is coming from, maybe.